Hello, this is Professor White. We are going to talk about integer subtraction today. So, let's go and let's do some examples. Okay, I just drew those number lines for you. This is similar to addition. So we need to remember a couple of things. Subtracting a number is the same as adding the negative of that number. So if you watch the addition of integers video, it's going to be very simple. So when you subtract the number, it's the same as adding the negative of that number. Now, the other thing that you need to remember, when you see a plus in front of a number, you go right. When you see minus in front of a number, you go left. And you do that with the number line. So let's do that. I have 3 minus 4, which is the same as 3 plus minus 4. So first I go to the right because there's nothing from the 3, so that is kind of like a hidden positive. So if there's nothing, that number is positive. So I'm going to go right first. 1, 2, 3. I am at 3 right now. Plus minus 4, and there's a negative in front of 4. I go left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where did I end up? At negative 1. So 3 minus 4 is simply negative 1. Does make sense? All right. Let's do the next one. 4 minus 3. I start with the 0. 4 means plus 4, so to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. I am at here. Plus minus 3. That means I go left. 1, 2, 3. Where did I end up? At 1. 4 minus 3 is 1. You can also think about 3 minus 4 is the bigger number. So I take the difference, that's 1, and the sign goes with the bigger number. So since negative was with the 4, bigger number, so you end up with a negative number. But if the sign is with the bigger number is positive, you end up with the positive number. 4 minus 3 is 1. 3 minus 4 is negative 1. So kind of remember that. Let's do this one. So this goes with this, and this goes with that. And we are going to do this one. This number line will go with that. 2 minus 5. Let's start with 0. 2 means to the right. 1, 2. Here I am. Minus 5. You'll go left because plus minus, so that's left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where did you end up? You ended up at negative 3. Here you are. Okay? Now let's do negative 4, negative 6. What does that mean? So this number line goes with this example. Negative 4 plus negative 6. So I'm going to go negative 4 left first. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here I am. Plus negative 6. Another left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Where did I end up? I ended up at negative 10. So when you're adding two negative numbers, you keep on going left. When you add two positive numbers, you keep on going right. And when you add a positive and negative, you go left or right. Okay? Okay. Now, what happens when I want to subtract more than two numbers? Like 2 minus 3 minus 4. You have to remember 2 minus 3 is like plus minus, and minus 4 is plus minus. So you can use the addition rules. I start with 0. 2 means I go to the right. 1, 2. Here I am. Plus minus 3. So I was here. 3 to the left. 1, 2, 3. Here I am at negative 1. So this one gave me negative 1. Plus negative 4. So that means I'll keep on going to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where did I end up? At negative 5. So 2 plus negative 3 is negative 1. Plus negative 4, that's negative 5. All right. How about this example? We always do them left to right. I said negative 2, negative 3. Negative 2 plus negative 3. Negative 2 is to the left, and negative 3, so you end up at negative 5. 1, 2, 3. I am at negative 5 right now. up to here, plus negative 4. Uh-oh, I keep on going to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. I ended up right here at negative 9. So negative 5 plus negative 4 is simply negative 9. But did you notice I always do them from left to right? Okay. So one thing that you might be noticing, when I had plus minus, I always treated them as 2 minus 4 backwards. You know, you can go this way or that way. And if I have minus plus, that also means plus minus. So negative positive or positive negative simply means negative. Think of it that way. It's probably a little easier to think of it adding a negative number rather than subtracting. So let's kind of review that. 2 plus negative 4. So to the right 2. I'm here. Negative 4 to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. I ended up at negative 2. Or 2 minus 4 is simply negative 2. So remember that. I could have written the same thing as subtracting a positive. 2 minus plus 4, which is the same as 2 plus minus 4, because these two are related. So you have the same thing. 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. You end up at negative 2. Either way. Okay? So remember that. Plus, minus, minus, plus means just minus. What happens with absolute values? Always remember, absolute value of a number is how far away is that number from 0. So it's always a positive number. So you have to kind of think how this works. Absolute value of negative 2 is simply 2. Absolute value of negative 3 is simply 3. So this problem is simply 2 minus 3, which is the same as 2 plus minus 3. How do you do that? You start with 0. Once you remove the absolute values and start adding and subtracting, so 2 to the right, 1, 2, and you go to the left, 1, 2, 3. Here you are. You end up with negative 1. And remember, you take the difference. Difference between 2 and 3 is 1, and it goes with the bigger number, which is negative 1. What happens here? Do the absolute values. Don't be fooled with the double negatives or none of that. Just do the absolute value first. What is absolute value of negative 3 is 3. So this problem is 2 minus 3. Okay? So what does that mean? 2 plus minus 3. What does that mean? You start with 0, go to the right, 1, 2, and then minus 3, go to the left, 1, 2, 3. A common problem that you may have is when you see this thing, and you write 3. That's not right. When you see this thing, it means you do this first, which is 3, and there's still a negative in front of it. That's a good one. All right? So remember those two things. Okay, double negatives, so let's pay attention to that. When you have a double negative, subtracting a negative is the same as adding. So get rid of the double negatives first. So that's negative 2. Double, double, that's a positive. Okay, you may have parentheses, no parentheses, doesn't matter. So double negative is a positive. So how does this work? You go left first, 1, 2. Here you are. And now you go right to the right, 1, 2, 3. Where'd you end up? At positive 1. And that is actually consistent with what I've been doing. How about here? When I end up with 2 minus minus, so that's the same as 2 plus 3. And you know that 2 plus 3 simply you go to the right, 1, 2. And then another to the right, 1, 2, 3. You end up at 5. 2 plus 3 is 5. So pay attention to double negatives. Okay, double negatives with and without absolute values. Let's put it together. So you have to remember, when you see this, that's a positive. But when you see this, you know, absolute value, that means a negative. So you have to kind of remember that. So let's do that. All right. First, clean this up. Double negative 2, that's a 2. Double negative 3, that's a 3. So double negative is a positive. Here, since you have the absolute value, you do the absolute value first, and then you put that, okay? Now, you see 2 plus 3 minus 3. 2 plus 3 minus 3. So what does that mean? 2 plus, that's a plus 3, plus minus 3. Okay? You start with 0. 2 to the right, 1, 2. Plus 3, 1, 2, 3. You are at 5 right now. Minus 3, 1, 2, 3 back. You are at 2. 2 plus 3 minus 3 is simply 2. You end up right here. So double negatives with the absolute values, you really need to pay attention. What happens when you have repeated negatives? And I have 2 pages left. So let's go with that. Be careful with them. Do them from inside out. So I have like negative, negative, negative. And also the other thing you need to keep in mind is how many left parentheses you have should match how many right parentheses you have. You have 2 of them here, and you have 2 of them here. So that's a good thing. So do them from inside out. You have a negative 2. Then you have negative, negative 2, which is a positive. And then you have a negative in front of it. So this whole thing ends up being a negative 2. So let's look at this one. Negative, negative, that's a positive. Another negative, that's a negative. Another negative, that's a positive. So this ended up with a negative 2. This is going to end up with a 3 because you have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. How about this one? You have a negative here. But this one is negative 3, and then double negative is a positive. Absolute value of positive is still positive, so you end up with that. So this problem is negative 2 plus 3, negative 3. And remember from the previous example, that ends up being a negative 2. So let me show you. Negative 2, 1, 2, plus 3, 1, 2, 3, you're here. And then negative 3, 1, 2, 3. You ended up right here, which happens to be negative 2. So let's kind of generalize the rule. When I have even number of negatives embedded, 1, 2, 3, 4, even number, you are going to end up with a positive. Now, let's look at this one. You have this situation. You have 1, 2, 3, 3 of them. That's going to give you a negative answer. So, be careful. When you have odd number of negatives embedded, you end up with a negative number. Even number of negatives, you end up with a positive number. Okay, so let's put it together. I'm going to do them a little fast. Double negative, that's a positive. That's negative 3. Double negative, that's positive. Absolute value, that's positive. So this absolute value, let's get rid of it. Absolute value of 2 is 2. So you have a negative 2, negative 3, positive 4, negative 5. Remember, I paid attention to these 2 absolute values, and these negatives did not disappear. Okay? But here, those 2 negatives did disappear. So what do you have? Negative 2, negative 3, plus 4, negative 5. Negative 2 is to the left. 1, 2. Negative 3. To the left again. 1, 2, 3. I'm at negative 5 right now. Plus 4. Now you go back. 1, 2, 3, 4. I ended up at negative 1. And you have another negative 5. Oh my goodness. Negative 5. So I was at negative 1. So I go to the left again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where did I end up? at negative 6. So this number is simply negative 6. So negative 2, negative 3, negative 5, plus 4, negative 1, negative 5, negative 6. All right, so this ends this portion of doing subtraction of integers.